As we wait for the launch of the MK Party's manifesto, I'm now joined by political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi for some analysis. Prof, good afternoon. Thanks very much for your time. An interesting development, something I don't remember a party launching a manifesto, less than 2 weeks to an election.
Hi, good afternoon, viewer. It's quite interesting that you're posing that question, because as I was sitting waiting for the interview, it just struck me to say, but yeah, this is really unusual. And then that goes back to what is the purpose of an election manifesto? Do you want to persuade South Africans to vote for a party, or is it just a public relations exercise? Because the question is the timing of this election manifesto launch. That for me is a bit worrying, and I'm really actually glad that you posed that particular question, because as I've said, I've also been thinking to say, but were they able to gain traction in terms of what we normally understand what election manifestos are all about, and that is to take your potential voters into confidence?
In fact, it probably answers, or this development probably answers the question people ask, ahead of an election as to whether people, vote because of they would have been convinced by a political party's manifesto, or people vote because they just like perhaps the leader or like the party, whatever their manifesto.
Yeah, one had to be very careful how you approach such a question. But for me, in South Africa, we haven't reached a stage where we even punish public representative, political organizations that who have messed up during the past 5 years. We haven't reached that stage, and that's why I've been stating that, irrespective of what major scandals will happen over the next 2 weeks or couple of days, South Africans, most of them, have already decided if they are actually going to vote, who they will vote for. So issues such as manifestos are, I would say, low down the line in terms of perhaps factors that can persuade an individual South African voter to vote for Party X. In South Africa, it's all about the historical legacy, and it's all about the personalities. And that's why there have been a lot of questions around the MK Party to say, but what is going to happen if President Jacob Zuma is no longer around? And I think that is a question that many of them, will there be somebody who will be such a draw card as former President Jacob Zuma?
But by all accounts, for a party that's been in existence for a few months and not having launched, any manifesto, but if the turnout at some of his rallies is anything to go by, he is a force to be, the former president is a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, most definitely. What also struck me, I had an opportunity to come in close contact with the MK supporters during their court hearing here in Bloemfontein. And what struck me is that a party formed 6 months at that time already had, in terms of marketing, they've got energy drinks and all that. And that really struck me, because you've got parties that have been around that cannot even start to compete with MK Party in terms of visibility, because with elections, it's also about visibility and impact. And we have seen, and I'm convinced, the support that they draw to their rallies is the kind of support those people will go out and vote for the party, unlike other parties that, huge drawing on the social media and, filling up stadiums. But at the end of the day, it seems as if there's a huge challenge in people voting for certain parties. And that, for me, I think is very commendable, and that can only be ascribed to, obviously, the former president's charisma and who he is.
Does the situation you've just described, Prof, tell us anything we perhaps didn't know or undermined about the South African voter?
No, it just tells us that if you posed this question before the formation of MK, I would have had a completely different view to say I do not believe that people will publicly come out and join a party. And I mean, I've been even very consistent on the point to say that even members of the African National Congress who wants to join MK will not do that because there's a risk that they may lose, especially senior members and all that who have a soft spot for the president. But in general, what this tells us is that South African voters still identify with personalities instead of ideologies or what political party stands for.
Would you say, Prof, that perhaps a big contributing factor has been how the ANC, still his current home, technically, would you say that the ANC has contributed to how the Umkhonto weSizwe party has shown up until now?
Yeah, well, we all know what happened within the African National Congress, and even if you look at our former premier here in the Free State, it's all the shenanigans that happened within the African National Congress that now led to, because the question is, if there was no disciplinary hearing against the former Secretary General of the African National Congress, would he have formed this political party? The former president, if there was no charges against him, would he have gone to eventually form that political party or support MK party? So it has a lot to do with what happened within the African National Congress. But can we blame the party for that? No, we can't. But I think also we all know the elephant in the room is that the African National Congress dilly-dally around issues. And then these issues become so big, then it becomes very insurmountable to deal with this issue. And one of them was to take decisive action against individuals, the so-called untouchables within the party. And I think that still happens to a certain extent within the party. And one can just hope that they deal, and confront the monsters that they're dealing with. I mean, a typical example was the disciplinary hearing against the former president. Why does it have to take so long? A party more than a century old does not fear. It is an organization that wants to lead society, and they need to demonstrate that by how they deal with their internal affairs. So in short, I strongly believe that what happened within the African National Congress led to the formation of ACT and of MK party.
I'm told that he has just arrived at the stadium, and we hope to take our viewers there in a short while. But lastly, I mean, Prof, knowing him, would you like to take a guess as to what he's probably going to say or touch on?
Yeah. No, well, it's not difficult. We all know, and I've seen they talking about 8 pillars. He will definitely speak to the manifesto, but I will not be surprised if he's not yet once again going to take a swipe at the African National Congress and even the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, because it seems as if President Cyril Ramaphosa, and to respect, has been an irritation to the former president. And I will not be surprised if we don't take a jibe as the current president and the African National Congress, and perhaps all those who believe that perhaps MK will not contest this particular elections.